All right, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast. I'm your host Freeway, and I'm here with my co-host Kenny.
Are you?
I am actually, and today we are here to talk about Film Red, the One Piece movie. So I noticed you're wearing a red shirt. Is that on purpose, or is that just?
It is on purpose.
Okay,
it's blatantly on purpose.
I couldn't. At first, I was like, "Am I thinking too much into this, or is that actually a real thing?" But yeah, you're wearing a red shirt. It's very red, actually. I don't really. Do I have red? I might have like one or two red shirts in my entire closet, but it's not a color that I wear very frequently.
Got red corduroys.
I don't have them anymore, but if you guys don't know what Kenny is referencing, there was this time where I bought a pair of red corduroys that were on sale for $10. And I was like, oh man, these are going to be awesome. Like corduroys are kind of back. This is a while ago, by the way. This is like 10 years ago. I was like, oh man, corduroys are kind of cool again. And this is a color that I don't have in anything really. Red pants, and they were red corduroys. And reality sets in and you realize in the wintertime, you're not going to be fucking wearing red pants. And then in the summertime where you would want to wear something red, it's too hot to wear corduroy. So they were on final sale for $10 because literally no one could wear them. Yes. So
there was a reason.
I was a fucking sucker, and I bought it. I basically burned $10 of my money randomly at like H&M or some shit one day, but whatever. We're here now.
I'm wearing a red shirt. It is on purpose for One Piece Film Red. Real quick, I'm going to say this right fucking now, and I won't say it again for the rest of the episode, so it's on you. Spoilers for One Piece Film Red, and for probably up through where the anime is currently. Anime current. We won't talk about any manga, but anime current, which is up to the gigantic big event. I won't say what it is right now, but it will be said later. Big event that was all over social media for One Piece anime. That's what we're going to be talking up to, including One Piece Film Red. Okay? There was your warning. If you keep watching, fuck you.
Yeah, it's on you at this point. So it took us a while to actually see Film Red, but that's for two reasons. One, because when we did try to go to see it in theaters, it was just kind of awkward. It wasn't in theaters that long for us to coordinate, and we both had a lot going on at the time. And then so we missed that window.
When we did try to coordinate it, we tried coordinating it with a big group on Thanksgiving, and it was still in theaters, but at that time it was already in theaters for like 2 weeks. And like you said, didn't have a long theater run. So it was only playing like one showing a day at that point.
Yeah.
And the only showing was at like 11 in the morning.
And we were staying up every day till like
we were staying up all night. And so it just like didn't work out.
Yeah, which was unfortunate. But this past weekend, we ended up watching it together as a group on Discord, which I actually really enjoy our Discord group watch parties because we all mute. So no one is talking during the movie, but we text through Discord. We have a group chat on Discord that we all kind of talk in that. So it's kind of the same thing, but without actually disturbing the audio of what you're watching. So if you were in a movie theater and it was like 10 of us, it's no way that we could communicate without disturbing everyone else in the movie theater, which I would never want to do.
And also distracting ourselves, right? Like there's no way I could hear, especially if there's 10 of us, we're all sitting on a line.
Right.
So I can only really talk to the two people that are right next to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, it's really fun to watch things in the theaters with your buddies, but our Discord watch parties are cool because everybody can like text in the chat. We all have communication, and the audio of the movies never gets interrupted, like you said.
Yeah, so I did enjoy the experience we had this past weekend watching it. It came out, I think, like August 3rd or something like that on digital, right? Is that what happened? Like Crunchyroll
I don't know the exact date, but I know it just came out on Crunchyroll this month. The exact day, I don't know.
August. So August 2023, it finally came out. And I want to say it's been either a year or over a year since Film Red officially released in theaters.
In theaters, it came out in November because we tried to sync up seeing it at the end of November for Thanksgiving, and that was already so I think it came out early November in theaters.
So it's a little under a year. Anyways, the movie was fucking fantastic. I really, really, really like this movie for a couple reasons, and we could discuss all of them individually, but I think the main thing is how musical it was. Like this
unexpected.
Yes.
Like I knew the girl Uta, I knew she was a singer, and I knew there was going to be music in it. I didn't realize there was going to be a whole album though.
Me either. I didn't know.
Like there was a lot of songs.
A lot of songs and a lot of really good music. The first song,
were bangers too.
New Genesis, I think it's called. They're so good. We were in the group chat like, yo, why is this song so fucking good? The very first number, New Genesis, it is a bop. I listened to the whole album again today because I found it on Apple Music. And I was like, yeah, this album just slaps. Like every single song basically is really good. I will say, One Piece movies, it's not that they're not musical naturally because they typically all have a song portion of them, but this one was more musical than any of the others I think, in the past, and they definitely like turned it up a notch. I feel like for Film Red, like the main character or the main, I guess like this is weird, but the main antagonist Uta was also, you know, she has the Sing Sing fruit, and I have no idea why that fruit was so outrageously overpowered.
Listen, something I've learned watching One Piece is Oda gives no fucks for what you think. He'll take a power and it's like like fucking Kuma. His
I
fruit
always
is
use
the
that one
paw fruit.
every
Like
time.
his fruit is paws. Why can he reflect air at the speed of light? I don't know.
Yeah. He is one of the
Using
strongest
his
characters
paws.
in all of One Piece. Like in all of One Piece, he is top 100 most powerful, and there's a lot of characters. He's probably higher. He's probably a lot higher, but I can't like off the top of my head come up with a quantitative list of where Kuma would rank. But he's a Shichibukai, a former Shichibukai. Also works for the world government now and stuff like that. So clearly one of the most powerful characters in One Piece, and his fruit is called the Paw fruit, and it has nothing to do with anything what it actually does. Like it's just so ridiculous that he can reject anything. He can reject someone else's pain, their emotions. He can reject, like Kenny said, like air, oxygen, or whatever. Like it's quite ridiculous how that fruit works, and the Sing Sing fruit is no exception. It has really nothing to do with like what it sounds like. It captures your soul and locks you into a genjutsu.
For some reason, like you're singing and you go to a fucking sing dimension and you just go to another fucking dimension.
Your soul gets locked into another dimension where Uta is all powerful. Like I really don't know what to like. It's so insane that that's what it does. And I kept thinking, because they actually referenced and showed Big Mom during the movie, and she was like, "Oh, it's Shanks' daughter, and she's, you know, an idol and all this other stuff. She has a lot of fans. I need her. I need to have her as part of my family. Like I want to add her to my crew, my family, or whatever, as one of my daughters." And that was a scary thought, because I was like, "Oh shit, is Big Mom going to actually be part of this movie?" Like you didn't know who was going to actually show up, and there was a part of me wondering if Big Mom was going to show up. But then come to find out, Uta's power is dealing with souls, and I thought immediately, "Oh god, Big Mom's power also deals with souls." Yeah. I think she has the soul fruit or some shit. Yeah. So Big Mom's ability is ridiculous too. Even without her having it, she's still ridiculously strong. They said like it's not her fruit that makes her powerful, but her fruit is also out of control, ridiculous. She can give life to inanimate objects. She can give a soul to things that don't have a soul, and they come to life and they do her bidding and stuff, like clouds and all furniture, anything. Like literally, she can give life to trees, and she has. So her ability is ridiculous, and I was wondering how it would interact with Uta's, but I guess that they avoided that because it probably would be so complex. Because on one hand, you have this girl singing, and if you hear her voice, and this is so dumb, this is some genjutsu shit from Naruto. Blatantly, like Jiraiya's frog song is referenced a lot in power scaling videos and all types of times when people talk about Naruto and how powerful certain things are. People often talk about, well, could this person deal with genjutsu, and then could they deal with genjutsu like the frog song specifically because it's an audio genjutsu, right? Like it's something that if you hear it, you're affected by it. And it's really hard for people, I would say, in a fight to just not hear something, right? Like that is a really, really powerful ability. So they said, her ability is to lock your soul into this dimension. And when you're in that dimension, she is all powerful. So
she just literally does whatever she wants. Like, she can turn you into a teddy bear. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, she just does whatever she wants when you're in that dimension.
And I did think it was cool that the narrative of the movie for the first 40 minutes, because it is a 2-hour movie, which I love that so much. There was a lot of time to develop ideas and stuff. But the first 40 minutes of it were filled with the characters trying to understand what her power even was.
Yeah.
They were like, how is she doing that?
The movie in general was interesting because we said this when we watched it. So going into it, we did not know Uta was the villain.
I had no idea. I've seen her so much, did not know.
Yeah, she was on a lot of the promotion material. There's been a lot of fan art of her. She's just been everywhere. She's even referenced in the manga, in the official manga, where there's I think it's when Green Bull, the admiral.
Yeah, I think it's in that area.
Yeah, I don't think that happened in the anime yet. But anyway, it's referenced in the manga. But
oh yeah, you're right. It's referenced in the manga, and I guess that's what we'll say about that. But yes, Uta is a canon character. Like that character is real. Yeah,
and so her I guess what was so surprising to me is like we knew going like the promotion for the movie was like this is about Shanks' daughter and all this, and so never in a million years did I go into this movie thinking she was the villain. You get to the movie and you're watching it, and then there's like I'd say a hint because like everything's kind of normal. Yes. And then there's a part where she says something, and at this part it's still kind of like lackadaisy, like kind of fun still. But she says you guys can like everybody can stay here forever, like or like my live
Yep.
stream will never end.
Yep.
And when I heard,
I caught that too.
I was like, the fuck does she mean?
Yeah, I caught the little utopia vibe. Anytime you hear a character in anime, especially anime, mention anything about a utopia of some sort or a world where things are perfect, you think about somebody in our group chat actually said Infinite Tsukuyomi is given that vibe. Any world where things are made perfect without people being able to choose, with free will. Once you start removing that or removing all crime or removing all choice, that type of thing is always met with, well, this character is a fucking lunatic or they're going to spiral out of control. And she started off very calm and very happy-go-lucky, and she looks like a good character. When you look at her, you think benevolent. You don't think of a malevolent. And honestly, at no point during the movie really did she look like a malevolent character, but there were signs of some unhinged behavior going on behind her head. Like the wheels were spinning for sure when I was watching. I was like, man, something about this chick seems a little off. And yeah, as it unraveled, she had that Magneto style, that Thanos style. Like, I'm going to trigger warning. I'm going to suicide pact as many people as I can.
Yeah. So that was her ultimate plan, was to trap as many people as possible into this Sing dimension. And then if she dies while you're in that dimension, your soul is just in that dimension forever. Like there's nothing that can happen.
Yeah.
So her plan was, in order to create like world peace, in order to like get rid of war and hunger and sadness.
And the pirate era, she's against that as well.
Yeah, in order to end all of that, she was going to try to trap the entire world's population into this dimension and then die.
Yep. Like, that was her actual plan. That is that's a dark ass theme for a young girl's plot in a movie. Like I was thinking about, like, damn, her goal was suicide. She was taking some wake shrooms and they make it where you don't. So they're basically just energy drinks, because people in real life die from energy drinks too, but they make it where you don't sleep. And eventually, because you don't sleep, naturally you die. Like, they didn't have to even explain that part. Once they said that they make it where you don't sleep, I was like, well, naturally your heart is going to fail. That's just, that's a real life thing. So they work just the same as an energy drink if you overconsume it or if you just don't sleep naturally. Some people can just not sleep when they play a game, for example. And this happens in Korea and has happened in Korea in the past, where they have these gaming cafes, and the people in Korea are very competitive at things like League of Legends and other games. And they'll go to these cafes and they will play a game for 70 hours straight and collapse and die from it, unfortunately. So when they brought that up, the wake shroom thing, I was like, oh no. Like, they showed them so early too. When Luffy and them were cooking and stuff, they kind of like peeled back a layer of food and it was just a shroom chilling. And I was like, what is that? But I didn't really think too much of it. They just kind of showed it early.
Sanji takes notice of it. Sanji like sees it and he takes notice of it and he throws it away.
Mm-hmm.
And and then they go on. It's like interesting when that happens.
I like that though. Also, we were talking about watching the episodes of the anime that related to Film Red prior to watching the movie, and we decided to just say fuck it. So then I was a little annoyed and scared when the movie started. There was a part where Luffy ran up to Uta and they had this reunion moment. And as I was watching it happen, I was like, oh shit, there's definitely something important that we missed in those anime episodes, because they were talking as though they had known each other already and that there was something that preceded the movie. But then, luckily, like 3 minutes after they have their little reunion, the main characters were like, so how do you know this person?
Yeah.
And I was like,
oh, do a flashback.
I was like, thank God.
Have you seen the episodes yet?
I have not.
I watched them. Thank God we didn't watch them before it came out. There's something, I don't know, Toei Animation, I think, is kind of slow. To jump all the way to the end of the movie, I'll just say it now.
Yeah.
The end of this movie, and I don't know whose fault it is, but I couldn't believe it. The end of this movie has Gear 5. They don't really draw any attention to it. It just happens. Like, you just, like, Luffy's in Gear 4. He's doing this gigantic attack. And then, like, in the next scene, he's in Gear 5.
Yeah.
And, like, he's finishing the attack in Gear 5. And nobody draws attention to it. Nobody says it's Gear 5. There's not even a big spectacle, like, zoom in on him. You just kind of, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, you're like, what the fuck was Luffy doing? But anyway, that was in this movie. But to now roll it back, the lead up episodes, I watched them after watching the movie because I was just curious. I was like, oh, I'm still in the mood. I was like, I want to watch these episodes. So lead up episodes had some new stuff that we didn't see in the movie. Showed a little bit more of Luffy and Uta as they were when they were children, but it also blatantly fucking showed scenes from the movie. Like there's a scene in the movie where Shanks and the crew, they leave, and then Uta says, like, she'll challenge him when she gets back or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Shanks and the crew come back and they're all sad as they're walking off the ship. And then Luffy's like, "Where's Uta at?" And then Shanks says, like, she left the crew to become a singer, and Luffy's like crying and getting really mad. They show that scene in the lead up episodes.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, why the fuck would they show that scene?
Yeah, that's a pivotal moment.
Like, that's a pivotal moment in the movie. Why would they show us that now? Also, they kind of give hints that Uta's a little unhinged in these anime episodes.
Really?
And I was like, yeah, that was also annoying because when you go into the movie, you don't know she's a little unhinged.
Yeah.
So the anime episodes give a little bit of hint that she's unhinged. And then finally, like 4 of the songs from the movie are in the episodes. So like,
man,
the songs that you hear in the movie, that like play at pivotal moments and everything, you hear them in the anime episodes. And I was like, why the fuck are these anime episodes that you're supposed to watch before the movie ruining the movie? Like, after watching the movie, they were cool. It was cool to watch them after watching the movie because it was like, oh, whatever. It was fun additional content that I enjoyed. But in the context of knowing you're supposed to watch it first, I was like, this is so dumb. I can't believe they did this.
I'm glad that we didn't, though. I guess we got lucky because that's all it really was. We just made a group decision, like, fuck it, let's just go in. And it just worked out. But I was nervous. As I was watching those two have a reunion in the beginning, I said, oh man, we were probably supposed to watch those episodes because the way they're talking seems like we missed something. But then all the characters looked at each other and was like, so how do y'all know each other? And I was like, oh man, thank God, because I was wondering the exact same thing. If all of the Straw Hat Pirates would have interacted with Uta as though they knew her, I was going to put in a group chat like, okay, can we pause it here? I'm going to ask, because I was the one streaming it. Yeah. And if they would have all behaved in a way like they all knew who she was, I was going to say we clearly missed something. And I do kind of want to stop here, pause, and just go watch it as a group.
I think everybody would have agreed.
Yeah. But as soon as everyone was like, I have no idea who this person is, I was really happy to know that it was a narrative thing, that they don't know who she is too, and that we didn't actually miss anything. Yep. But yeah, there's flashbacks with her and Luffy as children, and it made me realize, and I said this in our group chat, but I realized how much older Shanks really is to Luffy, because in the movie when they show the flashbacks, Luffy is even younger than he is in, like, I mean, granted, they show him in chapter 1 of One Piece as a child. But then there's like a little bit of a time skip or whatever, and then he kind of sets sail. And seeing him in this movie, he is like a little boy. Yeah. Like basically I don't want to say a baby because he's walking and talking and stuff, but honestly 5 years old maybe, like really young.
Yeah, he's young. I saw in the anime episodes, they do reveal their ages at that time. Okay. Luffy is 7 and Uta's 9.
I wasn't far off. Yeah. I said 5. He seemed like a very young kid. Like basically because a 5-year-old can walk, talk, they can hold a conversation, they know exactly what you're saying, they understand directives, right? So you got all of that feeling from him, like he's at least a kindergartner, but not much. Like he basically, you're saying he's a second grader, and it's like, okay, sure. Like that's not much further. That's not much further. But yeah, I could tell that he was extremely young. And then when I saw Shanks being a full-on adult, I was like, man, Shanks looks already kind of older here. So he must be really, and granted, people do get to a certain age where you kind of stop aging for, I want to say like a decade, right? Like we kind of get to a point where I would say between like 27 to like 37, a lot of people can just look the same for a very long time.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that Shanks doesn't really look that much different from when he, set sail and then where it is right now. Like he does have facial hair and stuff. He looks a little bit more scruffy, I guess. But the same thing for me. I look at myself 10 years ago. I didn't have facial hair. Like I just did not have facial hair 10 years ago. But I've looked like this. So when I started my new job, and I work for an advertising company now that doesn't care. It's not an accounting company. I just work in the accounting department. So they don't care about facial hair. They don't care about, like I can go to work basically in whatever I want as long as it's not like gym attire or anything that's too revealing or whatever. So I don't have to wear, like I don't when I would go to the office, my point is that I don't have to dress up like an accountant typically used to in the past. And I say all that to say, I was able to grow my facial hair out 5 years ago when I started this job, and I've had it ever since. I kind of just look exactly the same as I looked in 2018. Like the way I look in 2018, I was looking at pictures of myself in 2018, and the way I look right now in 2023, that 5 year period,
I mean, I agree.
I just look the same. Like my body hasn't really changed that much. Like I've gone up, I've fluctuated slightly in terms of just like going to the gym and stuff. But for the most part, I look exactly the same. So I understand why Shanks, this is all to say that Shanks looks very similar to what he's basically always looked like in the manga and stuff. So I never really put it together that Shanks is like 40 is what I'm getting at. I Googled it. I googled it after the movie, I think, and it came up that he was 39, like after the time skip, and it's been a long time since the time skip in One Piece. So I just added an extra year to his age and say, okay, Shanks is at least 40 in the actual, like where the manga, where the anime is right now. Shanks is a 40-year-old man, and that is true. Like Shanks is just 40 right now. So yeah, he's 40, and I didn't know that he was that old. I guess there are ways that I could have known that if I really played around with the numbers from Roger and like Whitebeard and all. Like if you play around with the numbers, you can kind of guesstimate people's age, or you could just do blatant stuff where you get the numbers and you can do it actually. But I never did. So yeah, I think
Shanks is definitely an old head.
Yeah, he's old, but what he's not is fucking weak. That guy is outrageously strong, and I love this. I've said it to Kenny, and I probably did say it in our Joy Boy episode or something, or maybe our whatever episodes we've done on One Piece. The last one was like 3 hours. Maybe I said it then, but I'm gonna say it again. I really love this era of One Piece where you could tell that the show, the manga is coming to an end. I like this send off because a lot of things that you didn't get to see, you're just seeing now. And one of them is Shanks actually fighting. There's getting to see Gold Roger fighting, for God's sakes. Like the last year or so, the last year or two, because Wano has been going on for a while. The last year or two, though, of One Piece, man, I have been enjoying the manga and the anime so much because you're getting this end game content now.
Yeah, they're getting into the end game shit. Like you're seeing some like fucking Kaido. We've known about Kaido, if you can believe it, since at least Water 7. Since at least like the end of Anise Lobby,
when they showed the
talked
silhouette.
about they talked about the Yonko, and they tell you about Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, and Shanks. And that's when you first find out about Kaido. And it's just so funny to think because he's just a name. A big name, but you don't know anything about him. Then time passes and you get Whitebeard's War. And the Whitebeard War happens, and you get fucking word that coming to the war is Kaido. Kaido's on his way to converge on the fucking war between Whitebeard and the Marines. And then you hear that Shanks intercepts Kaido and stop. And then at the end of the war, you get Shanks's crew, meaning he successfully intercepted Kaido and told him to turn the fuck around.
It's so good.
And then Shanks comes to the war and ends the war. And then I think the first time you see Kaido is an amazing chapter, an anime episode where it starts off with like almost like poetry. Like it's like a guy talking. And he's like,
yo, I love that.
Like he's been hanged 37 times.
Yep.
And they tried to drown him.
He's been shot this many times. Yeah.
And he's been shot. And then like he tried killing himself. And like you're like, what is going on?
Yep.
There's a fucking silhouette in the sky. And then he's on a sky island, and then like Mad Monk Uroj is there and like says a prayer for him. And this guy jumps off of a sky island and then fucking craters into the ground. Kid and Hawkins are there, and Scratchman and Pooh, and they're like, what the fuck? And then climbs out of the crater is fucking Kaido. And you're like, what is going? But then even then, you don't get Kaido action until still years later when you get the Wano arc.
You see that happen, and you know that those supernovas are fucked, because Kaido's size, when they show it compared to the supernovas, is outrageous. Like, that panel is one of the coolest panels you'll ever see. There's so many good ones in One Piece. But, like, you knew that they were fucked because it's a Yonko, and it's made clear by that point that Yonko are on a very different level from everyone else. And I do want to talk about that because there was this discussion we had after the movie about Yonko versus Admiral. So we'll talk about that in a second. But before we get into that, I do want to say that, so like we were talking about the endgame and why this is such a cool time to be into One Piece, because you can blatantly tell we're getting content that we never got before with all these Yonkos. So you said that Shanks intercepted Kaido for the war arc, and that is an insane thing. But what we didn't get is we didn't get to see that. And what I'm loving now is that the lore behind some of these insane One Piece stories, like Whitebeard and the Rocks Pirates and Roger, all of this stuff, you're actually getting to visually see what happened when these two people met. And that to me is like the best shit ever. Okay. Yeah. I think I say this a lot now, and maybe it's just a me thing, but I know me and Medina feel this way. He's a mutual friend of me and Kenny's. I love prequel stuff. I love anything that's like if you give me backstory. Right now, I'm so into this Jujutsu Kaisen, these last 5 episodes hitting inventory or whatever. I'm so into that because it is literally a prequel to the entire story. and it covers like a younger version of Gojo and Geto and all of them. And the movie did the same thing. The Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie was a prequel as well. And I just love prequels, I think I'm just like a sucker for prequels. In fact, I said that Boruto is terrible, but I would love if they just did the opposite of Boruto and just went backwards and focused on Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru, with like the fourth Hokage being alive, Kakashi being alive, the third Hokage. We get to actually see why the third Hokage was considered at the time the god of shinobi, and like the professor.
You know why? It's because prequels, when done right, they can be done bad. But when done right, prequels add so much context and lore to what you're watching, right? Like you said, if we got to see like Minato when he was part of Team 7, like young Minato, and like him going, like it'd be so cool because it's like something that you've heard about in stories and in lore, and now you're getting to see what actually happened with fucking the third Hokage and why he's like, the scientist or what, like all that shit, and seeing how great they are.
We don't get to see that stuff. He's just an old man. Right. So prequels do it for me. And, One Piece hasn't given us a full-on prequel arc per se, even though Oden is basically a lot of that. But they haven't given us a full-on, like, this is Gold Roger's era. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, though, even though One Piece, there's no, like, full prequel arc, except, like you were about to say, the Oden thing. But something that is one of the best parts of every major arc of One Piece is there's the flashbacks portion.
Yes.
And when they go back 20 years or whatever it is to the flashback portion of every major arc, it's always fucking insane.
Every time.
It is so goddamn
They're like, let's
good.
rewind the clocks. I love when a chapter starts like that, because you'll read a chapter and it'll be a very pivotal moment in either a fight or a conversation, right? And then the next chapter will start off like, let's go back. It'll say like, let's go back, and then it'll have a square that says the time period, or like 10 years ago or 20 years ago in Wano. And you'll be like, yo, this is crazy. And everything that'll happen in that chapter, Wano was the longest that we got because time was the actual factor in the narrative of the arc. Like actual time travel and stuff was a factor. So it's a little different. And that's why it lasted so long. But I do like prequel stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of prequels. So yeah, this whole era of One Piece, filling in these legendary fights and altercations and meetings and stuff. I want more of that. And I'm happy that we're getting fed this by Oda. He did a great job though, because the whole way I started this was talking about Shanks and how strong he is. So Shanks, obviously we knew that he was an Emperor of the Sea and that he was one of the strongest characters. He clashed with Whitebeard when he had one arm. Now, granted, Whitebeard also was on like ventilators and stuff, and so they were both like, what you could say whatever about them being nerfed, even though apparently, and I did some research today, it's confirmed that like Oda said that Shanks losing an arm did not nerf him at all. He's not any weaker because he lost an arm in the first episode. So
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that Mihawk,
yes, they want to fight him.
Mihawk said some shit. He was like, you have one arm, so you're not, because Mihawk's considered the greatest swordsman. And we know that Shanks uses a sword. And we know that it's mentioned that Mihawk and Shanks are rivals in terms of swordsmanship. And then Mihawk didn't want to fight Shanks when he only had one arm, which is wild. We already know Mihawk's OD because we haven't seen him really do anything yet.
Literally, he's the only Shichibukai you have not seen actually fight, right?
The longer it takes for someone to do something, the more OD they are.
That's an anime rule.
And we know he was a rival to Shanks. So like Mihawk's going to be fucking absurd.
And a lot of people actually argue about that specific thing you just mentioned, Mihawks versus Shanks, and who's powerful, because right now Shanks is getting a lot of hype in the community, and just because Oda's giving us a lot of Shanks content. This last year, we got, I guess I shouldn't say, but we've gotten a lot of Shanks content in the last year. And so because of that, the Shanks community, or whatever you want to call it, the Shanks fan club, has been really excited, and they've been revisiting previous conversations about who would win versus Mihawk and all that stuff. And it gets really crazy. Like I spent a good amount of time today perusing those arguments and how people are like, well, the last time they fought would have been before, when he had two arms, and Shanks has probably gotten a lot stronger since then, even though he lost an arm or whatever, right? Like it's obvious that Shanks.
Same with Mihawk. Like,
yes,
to act like Mihawk hasn't got stronger, because I know years ago people were having that debate specifically off that comment that Mihawk said, and everybody was like, Shanks will dog Mihawk, Shanks a Yonko, Mihawk's just a Shichibukai, and they viewed it as like the Shichibukai are a lower tier than Yonko, which in general
that is actually true, yes.
But
right,
I think in the case of Mihawk, part of being a Yonko is having a big crew, and I mean, I guess Luffy kind of sorted debunks that
Mihawk,
before Luffy.
the only reason
Mihawk's
he's not
one
a
guy.
yeah, he's also not a Yonko because he can't be while he was a Shichibukai.
Yeah.
Like he has a different role that prevented him from ever being a Yonko. It's not because he's weaker necessarily, and whether that's true or not, Oda will confirm later on. It's just because he literally had a role where he didn't have a bounty anymore, right? Like when you became a Shichibukai, they all had bounties and they lost them.
Your bounties get paused. Like, your bounties get rescinded, and
yes, so he didn't have a bounty anymore either. That doesn't mean that, because bounties are the power system in One Piece, which I think is brilliant. But like, just because he didn't have a fucking bounty doesn't mean that he was weaker than people who had a big, like, do you think that Mihawk is weaker than Jax? Like, no. Jax would probably get fucking bodied by Mihawk. But like, just because Jax's bounty was one of the first ones that you saw that was blatantly a billion, right? And that was like, at the time on Zoe, that was crazy.
And Jack the Drought, I love that name.
I love that name, bro.
Jack the Drought is an absurd fucking name.
Also, the fact that it's King, Queen, Jack, Joker. Like, not knowing at the time that Jack was part of a bigger like card.
Yeah. And there's thing. There's a hint to it. It's so crazy. This has nothing to do with film.
I know, right? Like, we're just going in on One Piece as usual.
Crazy because you get introduced. You get introduced to Don Quixote do Flamingo, and then at some point in time, you find out that his code name in the underworld is Joker.
Yes.
And when you finally get Dressrosa, you get his squad, and his squad are like clubs, ace, spade, and diamond, because he has like Pika, and he has Diamante. These people all represent the 4 suits of cards: club, ace, club, spade, etc. So you have like Joker, and then like spade, ace, heart, and then you have and you know that Doflamingo essentially works under Kaido.
Yes.
And then you get introduced to Jack. And I guess Jack is just, it's already a normal name. So your brain doesn't click.
That's the thing. It was a normal name.
Your brain doesn't go, oh shit, Jack as in Jack of Hearts or whatever. Like, your brain doesn't click. And then you get fucking Queen and King. And then it's like Queen, King, Jack, Joker, Ace, Spades. It's like, holy fuck.
Yeah, it's so cool. Good. It's such a good naming convention. But yeah, to the point.
But anyway, Mihawk would murder Jack the Drought.
Oh yeah. It wouldn't even. I don't think it would be close. And I think that your point specifically about the longer it takes for them to show a character fight, the more ridiculous that character is going to be. So the fact that it took this long, we still haven't really seen Mihawk go all out. We know that he has a ridiculous amount of hockey, and which is what is required to even contend somebody like Shanks. Because so far, I want to say in this entire show, the entire manga that I've seen to this point, Shanks has the strongest hockey I've ever seen. Yeah, and I don't think it's close so far. Like, Shanks' hockey is by far the strongest thing we've seen in One Piece. Quite, like, literally, I don't think anyone's hockey is as strong as Shanks's that we've seen on camera, on screen.
In this movie, he no diffs vice admirals.
Yes, which we've never seen anything like that. We've seen hockey do all kinds of crazy shit, right? Luffy used it when he was unconscious to knock out people, and it has a lot of feats, right? There's all these feats with hockey. We have never seen it do no shit like that. He knocked out vice admirals. They even made a note of it. Fujitora was like, you even knocked out a couple vice admirals with that. Like, that is insane. That is not okay. Usually that shit knocks out henchmen, not vice admirals. And the only people who were still standing were Fujitora and Kizaru. Like, that is not, like, that's just insane to me. And he does it so calmly. There was also another part where Kizaru tried to interfere, and he went out to do his Yatakami thing where he, does the cool little light bullets. And when he did that, Shanks literally, from the ground, which was very far away, you just see a flash of red come up. You see all of the bullets that shot down from Kizaru. They all get scattered into the ocean instead of hitting their intended target. And then you see this red flash. And in the next second, Shanks does a slice right at Kizaru's body, and Kizaru obviously he dips out the way, but then it slices the top of a mountain, and it just starts to slide down. And then Kizaru does a teleport back to the ground, and when he teleports back to the ground, they don't even show it. You just see Shanks' sword at his throat, and he says, "This is a family affair. I'd appreciate if you stuck out of it, like you just did not get involved." and his sword is at his throat, and Kizaru is moving at what he considers to be like the speed of light. Whether that is true or not, it doesn't matter. Kizaru is moving at his extremely high speed, and he teleports back to the ground, and Shanks' sword is at his neck when he teleports out of the sky back to the ground. So he followed him from the sky to wherever the fuck he went and was already there. And Kizaru has his hands up like, all right, like, okay.
All right, relax. So if anybody was wondering,
yes,
admirals are not stronger than the Yonko.
And
Like, it's just not a thing. I said this when we talked about it after the movie, but there was it's crazy to me that was still a debate.
I couldn't believe it.
There was already a war, Whitebeard War. There was one Yonko there and 3 admirals, along with the rest of the fucking government. The fleet admiral was there, all of the rear and vice admirals, the 3 admirals, fucking like
Akainu almost got killed.
Yeah, it wasn't fucking close.
He got quaked on, and he could have died. Like if Whitebeard wanted to kill him, he could have died. So I don't. At no point.
It's wild.
Yeah, at no point did I think that admirals were stronger than Yonko, and I think that One Piece does a really good job, which is why me and you were both a little confused about that this was even an argument. But I think One Piece does a really good job of the hierarchy.
Yeah,
like sure, Mihawk is a little like, oh, his placing is a bit more ambiguous, but I think that the overall placing, it goes like Yonko, then I would say Admiral, then Shichibukai, and it kind of scales down like that, right? I think it's pretty. To me, it's pretty obvious that is the scaling that it goes. Yonko was at the top, though.
I think it's safe to say that no Shichibukai is beating an admiral, except maybe Mihawk and like maybe Doflamingo.
Yep.
But other than that, like the admirals are definitely stronger, and I think it's clear the Yonko are strong. I think also what gets people confused is it's a numbers game. The more members of a group there are, the weaker you would assume the group to be. For example, the Shichibukai has 7 members.
Yeah.
And so the admirals are stronger because there's 3 of them. The Yonko have 4 members, so to speak, even though they're not a unified group. There are 4 Yonko. So I could see people being like, well, there's only 3 admirals, so that means they're stronger, which just isn't true. But
yeah, what I will say is that I think that the what do they call it? The fleet admiral, what's the top brass? Like Sengoku.
The fleet admiral. Yeah, Sengoku.
I would think that Sengoku is probably on a level of a Yonko. I feel like
and Garp.
That's what I'm saying, because we know Garp could have been that, and he's blatantly turned it down because he doesn't want to answer this. You have to answer the celestial dragons when you are at that level, and so he blatantly does not want to do that, and so he stays at the level that he's at a vice admiral level. But I bet you that the hockey used by Shanks will not knock him out. And
I mean, they made it clear that Garp was supposed to be an admiral, and he was just like, no.
Yes,
and then from there, probably fleet, because like him and Sengoku are rivals.
Yeah, that, and you could tell by things that are happening elsewhere that like Garp is actually way stronger. Again, the things we're getting right now is the end game. I'm loving everything we're getting right now, but Garp is very clearly stronger than a lot of people understand, maybe. And Sengoku, he has a mythic Zoan devil fruit. The only people really like that is not to be taken lightly, dog. Like that is. Yeah. His is Buddha, right? It's fucking Buddha.
Yeah, he's Buddha. Like, literally Buddha.
He's definitely... Sengoku is 100% Yonko tier, and I'm not backing down. Like, that man...
I agree. I'm in full agreement.
Like, his devil fruit is fucking Buddha, dog.
Like, I think if 1v1... Now, that said, maybe I'm biased, but I don't know. I think 1v1, like, Whitebeard, like... Or Kaido. Like, I think they'd probably beat Sengoku in a fight 1v1. But... I think Sengoku is right. Like, if Sengoku was a pirate, he'd be in that tier.
Yes.
Like, he
and there are tiers within the Yonko, too. I think there's tiers within every group as well. Like, we know that Doflamingo is one of the stronger Shichibukai.
Yeah.
Gecko Moria does not want it.
Does not want the smoke.
Right. And we also, same thing with like, what's her name? Boa Hancock, right? Like, she's strong or whatever, but she's nowhere near the power. And this is another thing, like, did this happen yet? I guess it says, I can't even say. But Boa Hancock, like, she's strong, but she's not on a level, like, I wouldn't put Boa Hancock on a level of Jinbei.
Yeah, she's,
Like, Jinbei is very clearly stronger than Boa Hancock. It's just like, you could tell certain of these characters, they're another level. Jinbei, and this is something that happened in Whole Cake Island, so I can say it, because my mind's having a hard time separating current manga from we're trying to stop at here. But Jinbei was able to damage Big Mom. Like, he actually attacked her and physically inflicted damage on Big Mom in Whole Cake Island when they were escaping. That is a thing that happened. And Luffy went gear fourth, and she said, this is nothing. So just to put it in like perspective of how powerful some of these characters are, and whether you think that's inconsistent or not is not the point, is the fact that he was able to do an attack that blatantly damaged Big Mom. So it's like, you know, I don't think Bo was doing that. Personally, like also her power would not work on Big Mom at all. Like literally wouldn't do a single thing. So it's just like there are clear. My point is that there are clearly tiers within these little factions, and I think that it's kind of, as much as I hate to admit it, it's kind of clear that, like, for example, Akainu fought against Aokiji, and you basically get the idea that Akainu came out on top in that fight. Like the amount of damage done to Aokiji is very clearly more significant than the damage he did to Akainu. And
but they did rumble for 10 days.
They rumbled and they left an entire island in disarray where half of it is fucking frozen and half of it is lava. And that is really cool. One of the coolest things I've ever heard of in an anime. But like, still, that fight does have a winner.
And it does. I mean, the winner, Akainu, went on to become the fleet admiral, and Aokiji left the Marines.
Yeah. So there is scaling within, and the thing is, what makes Kizaru so interesting, we don't really know. Still, I think even still after Film Red, we still don't know his true potential, his true power.
Oh, yeah. I think that's something interesting, because even though Akainu is now the fleet admiral, I don't think that necessarily means
he's
stronger than Kizaru, because Kizaru gives off vibes of like, he doesn't really care.
He never
he's so
tries
lazy
to be.
And like,
and he gives up too easy. So when Shanks put the sword up to his throat, now I do believe Shanks is blatantly stronger than him because Silver's Rayleigh was able to keep up with him in Sabaody. So like, I do believe that Shanks is no question stronger than Kizaru. I don't even want to get into that conversation. I think it's very obvious, but I do think that Kizaru's whole character is him pretending to not be as strong as he is.
I think if they fought Shanks and Kizaru, Shanks would win. But I think you're delusional if you don't think Kizaru's getting, like, Kizaru's, I think he's going to rumble with Shanks. Like, if they fought, they would rumble. I just think Shanks wins.
Yeah, and I think Kizaru has always been holding back, and we've seen him do a lot more stuff than we've seen Mihawk, but I'm getting the vibe that in the end game, when it really comes down to an all-out war between pirates and the world government, I do think we'll get to see Kizaru go all out. We'll have to see Kizaru eventually be defeated, but when we have to watch Kizaru be defeated, he's going to display some very outrageous things with that fruit, because that fruit can only do outrageous things.
Yeah, I hope so. I want to see absolute, just, that's the thing, like Kizaru, just based on fruits alone, and we know fruits aren't everything, but fruits alone, like that fruit is definitely a higher tier than Akainu's fruit.
Yeah.
But
I would be interested to see him go all out. And I think Oda will give us that one day. I've always had this thought, and I have not looked into this theory of mine or really saw it. I haven't seen it anywhere. I've never seen it mentioned, but part of me always wondered if Kizaru was truly a bad guy. Like, I think that if they were to make Kizaru change sides or something in the end, it would not be the biggest thing if you went and looked at all of the things that he's done in the past and say, I could see that. Because he seems to go easy on people too often to me, whereas Akainu is a straight up murderer. Like even in this movie, so to get back to Film Red a little bit, there was a part where they invade the island that all of this is happening on, right? And when they do that, they start killing civilians. And it's Akainu's orders. Like, they start shooting civilians and killing them. And then there's the whole conversation of like, well, the sacrifice is worth, what Kizaru says is, he's like, the sacrifice is worth it for justice. Yeah. But it's Akainu's orders as the fleet admiral to say, fuck it, kill them if it means you kill her. So my whole point is that a lot of times I see Kizaru do stuff and I'm like, he could have killed this person. Like, he could have blatantly, especially with like the supernovas and stuff like that. Like, he could have killed them. None of them died. And he's a lot of times the way he backed away when Shanks decided to fight, it almost seems to me like, well, now I don't have to get involved anymore. Like, he puts his hands up with a smile. It's never, it doesn't give me, I'm actually afraid or I'm like beaten here. It gives me, thank God, now I could just use this as an excuse. Oh, well, Yonko showed up. I couldn't do anything. I was powerless.
I couldn't do anything. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go chill.
If you look at everything he's ever done, outside of when he blatantly, what was that, Film Z? When he blatantly killed that guy. he just killed that guy at the end. But like, outside of that, I think that was a different case. That guy was on some shit. He was a terrorist. Like, that guy was actually a dictionary definition. He was a fucking terrorist. So that was a little different. But I think in general, the opportunities that Kizaru has had to actually inflict severe harm to people, he's often just taken this route of like, oh well, I couldn't really do anything. So yeah. Now that could change. I could be wrong on that, but when I go back and look at every single scene that Kizaru's been in, every time I've ever seen him in that, he's like, oh, it's always just this kind of fake vibe to him. That if he did switch characters, or if he was a spy, or if he was like a turncoat, it wouldn't be the biggest shock to me for him to be in the middle, or he just flat out leaves and like I'm not on anyone's side.
Yeah, my two favorite Kizaru moments is one when Luffy goes gear second and he like dashes forward, and then Kizaru comes up next to him and he's like, "Oh, how slow!"
Yeah,
like
this is after
calls him slow, and then when Kizaru just stunts on the supernovas,
that's the best.
That's like, there's a part where I'll never forget. Kizaru's like fucking a guy up in the distance, and I think it's Diaz Drake is watching him, and then he's still watching the fight, and then the scene changes, and Kizaru's foot is going in slow motion up to his face, and like his feet are in front of Diaz Drake's eyes, but his eyes haven't registered that like anything has changed yet, and he gets kicked in the fucking skull. Like, it is absurd.
Yeah, that was basically his real introduction, and it was absolutely insane. And to your point about the gear second thing, I think that was so cool in the war when he's like, "Why are you moving so slow?" Because that's after you see what he does to Bluno, who's also in this movie, and he just like Bluno got zero diff by gear second. That was the way to show it off. Like, it wasn't close. Once he activated it, that is one of my favorite things to watch. I always go back, like once a year I'll watch Bluno versus Luffy gear second, and I also watch Kizaru versus the Supernovas. I watch both of those at least once a year.
Yeah. It's and pretty much the same.
They're so good, but like the fact they show how fast Luffy was moving, the artistic style that they used in the anime was great because you didn't see Luffy actually moving. You just saw him hitting him from the sides of the screen. Bluno is in focus in the anime, and you just see a punch from the left, a stomp from above, like an uppercut from below, but you don't actually see Luffy physically like moving around when that's happening.
And then you just get them sound effects, like like the sound effects they're doing is insane.
And I think the point of that, the artistic direction to do it that way, was to say he's moving extremely fast. Also, Bluno was blatantly looking left to right, and his eyes are really big, and he's like, "There's no fucking way this guy is damaging me through my whatever they call that heart and shit they do." Yeah, he's like, "There's no way he's damaging me through that," and there's also no way he's moving that fast. And he's looking for him. So it's like speed was a point of gear second. And then later on, of course, Oda has to show you there are levels to this shit. This is actually slow compared to what, what's happening now. So I love all of these things about One Piece. And but Bluno, he is in the movie. And
surprising. There's a lot of people in the movie that are just here.
Yeah, Brulee's there. But it's people who, it seems that they can like warp dimension stuff. They can also do dimension warping abilities, like Brulee's ability is the mirror fruit. And I think Nami at one point blatantly tells Brulee, like, "Listen, you fucking care about seeing your brother again and all this other stuff, you better fucking let us into your mirror dimension to save us, because if we lose, like, this is it for everybody." So I like that. And then Bluno has that ability with his door fruit to just like open doors to essentially anywhere, which is OD. But yeah, I like that they have these characters in a movie. It makes sense why they're in it. And yeah, I mean, the movie, it was really, really, really good. Like, just the right amount of everything.
It progresses in a cool way. Like we said, the music is great. It progresses in a cool way. It starts off in a point where I'm like, who's the villain? And it, like, the movie goes on for a while, and I'm like, who's the villain? And then it's like,
at least a
half
half hour.
The villain.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh shit. And then it's her, and then you're still trying to figure out what's going on, and then a lot of really cool shit happens, and it progresses, and you get some backstory with like top musica and like all of this crazy shit.
Yeah, this fucking demon. There's like a whole demon that actually has a will of its own, and this top musica thing, it finds the person with the sing fruit, and essentially gets them to play it. That's like the whole goal. And when it does that, it merges reality with this dream world, this fake reality world. And once they're merged, and like, terror, the world can end, essentially. Like, everything can go bad.
So a lot of cool shit happened. We saw the 5 Elder Stars. We saw all this really cool shit. Yeah, the 5 Elder Stars. And like, they were talking about various things throughout the movie. There was even a part, and I need to go back and watch it again.
Me too.
And maybe it happened maybe this is something that's been revealed in the manga and I just don't remember it because so much stuff happens, it's hard to remember everything. But there's a part where they find out Uta is Shanks' daughter, right? Which
Yes.
in the movie you eventually find out is she's not actually Shanks'
Yeah,
daughter.
not
He just
biologically.
found her. But they find out that Uta's Shanks' daughter, and then they say, like, they give the order to kill her, and then one of them says, "Are you sure that's okay? Now that we know she's like a fingerling or something." Like they say something, and I couldn't. It happened so
Oh
fast. I
yeah.
couldn't parse what the fuck they said, but they said like, "Are you sure that's okay? Now that we know that she's a this." And I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And I was like, "Is that what Shanks is? Is Shanks or whatever the fuck that?" And
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to fully parse it, so I don't. Maybe it's something that's already been revealed and I already know about, but I just don't remember. But
Because
I was
we're
like,
talking
"What
about
the?"
something that is well over 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, and I was like,
And
"What the fuck is that? And
yeah,
what does
if you
that
don't
mean
remember
for
everything, it's
Shanks?"
fine. I thought the same thing briefly too when they mentioned that, because they do call it's a specific word that I do not recall ever hearing or seeing before.
Mm-hmm.
So you are right, and I think I'm just gonna watch the first like 15 minutes. Not I'll just zoom to that part, but I'm gonna go back to that specific meeting of the world governments and those high, the five elders. I do want to watch that scene again because there were nuggets in there. You're 100% right, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing about One Piece. The more you watch it, the more you notice other things. Because in the beginning of the movie, we didn't know anything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like nothing really meant anything as much as it means now. When we got the full scope of the movie, we know who's the villain, we know what was going on, we know where Shanks lies, and that is not actually his daughter, but they both have red hair. And just like in Naruto, red hair actually did end up meaning something. I don't know if that's a Japanese like kind of trope at this point, but Gara and Kushina and all of that, it actually does mean something, that their hair is the same color. So maybe there is some actual link to Shanks and that girl besides just him finding her on board
Yeah.
his ship or whatever.
There's on that note, in case anybody's saying like, "Oh, well, the movie's not canon, so it doesn't matter if they said that thing in relation to Shanks." I want to, just for people that don't know, because it is kind of confusing. The canonicity of the movie is a little tricky. It's different than a lot of anime movies. So the first like 12 One Piece movies are standard anime movies like DBZ, Naruto, Bleach. They're just like movies. They are not canon at all. They're just fun little watches. They're like fucking Broly and Lord Slug or whatever.
Right.
And when Naruto does the Rainbow Rasengan, it's all just like, random shit. But then in 2009, I think, is when Film Strong World came out. And Film Strong World was different in that it was both canon and not canon. And what that means is that all of the characters, the lore, the history, and the backstory of the movie, of the Film Strong World, is all canon. It is all true to One Piece. It is all confirmed by Oda. Some of it is even referenced in the manga. For example, Gold Lion Shiki in Film Strong World. He's a rival to Gold Roger, and they have like a battle, like an iconic battle. I think the name of that battle has been mentioned in the manga. Gold Lion Shiki went to Impel Down, etc. Like all of that is true. All of the lore about the characters is all canon, actual part of One Piece lore. The part that's not canon is the fact that Luffy runs into Gold Lion Shiki and they fight. That part never actually happens in the canon of One Piece. But as I understand it, it's like a what if. Like,
Yeah.
what if these two canon characters did run into each other? That's what would have happened, but it didn't happen. But Gold Lion Shiki and all of his history is true. This is the same for Film Z. Z is a real character. His whole backstory, history, and lore is all true. It's just him meeting Luffy didn't happen. And that's also true for Film Gold, Film Stampede, and Film Red. So a lot of the lore, the story, all that shit is canon to One Piece. It's just the event of Uta holding this concert and Luffy going there. That's not canon.
Yeah, I read the same thing that Kenny just said. Literally, while we were watching the movie, there was a part where I got curious about something, and I Googled it, or maybe it was post, because somebody said something about the canon aspect of this.
Yeah.
And I think it was because we did have like an hour-long conversation after the movie on Discord. And I remember reading as everyone was talking about how it's confusing, just like you said. The movie is canon in the sense that the events of it do take place. It's just Luffy, his portion of it is not real. That's what's not, but everything else this is a real thing that has happened.
Yeah. So it is very confusing because that doesn't happen in any other anime where you have a movie, like either something's canon or not canon.
Right.
It's very rare that it's like, well, half the movie's canon and the other half isn't.
Like the incident that happened with Uta that they reference in the movie, where Top Musica was played the first time, that likely really happened.
Yeah.
That is a real thing that happened, and a lot of the other events they reference also happened. Like she is a real character that is in the manga now, and stuff like that, right? So we're referencing the manga now. So it is a interesting concept because, like you said, I've never seen or read anything quite like this. But it is nice to know that going into these movies, I don't have to just assume that whatever I see doesn't matter. Because I kind of didn't like
Yeah.
that about when I didn't find out about canon until I met you, and I was 20 when I met you. So it's just crazy to think to me that all of the DBZ movies that I watched when I was a kid on Toonami and stuff like that, World's Strongest, Tree of Might, like all of that, right? What was the other one? The one where the guy wishes for everlasting life, and then like Dead Zone, was it called?
Dead Zone with Garlic Jr.
Yes, all the movies I watched as a kid, and I love those movies, by the way. I found out later on when I met you, I was like, oh shit, they're not actually a part of the real Dragon Ball storyline. They're kind of just like their own separate thing, and that kind of sucked. Like I don't really like that.
Yeah,
So
same.
so I'm glad that now, more anime and manga, and in the case of Jujutsu Kaisen, and in the case of Demon Slayer, their movies are blatantly a part of the story.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
actually a part of the real story. They're taking canon material and turning it into a movie, and I prefer that a lot. But I do like that One Piece is now in this half and half thing, and I wouldn't be mad if One Piece did take the opportunity to make a movie that is blatantly
Yeah.
a chunk of the manga, and just like it is a movie now. Like we're making this
Yeah.
chunk of it into a
I'm
movie.
down with that.
I
Like
would
the
love
Demon
that.
Slayer thing, like yeah, and
Yeah.
JJK, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. Even back they went even further with the film Strong World, which is so cool. They released this thing called Episode Zero, which is also blatantly canon. I don't remember everything that happens, but it shows Gold Roger's execution, and it shows people that are there. Like Doflamingo's there, Gecko Moria's there.
Oh
There's
wow.
a bunch of influential characters that were at Gold Roger's execution, and they're like, you see them younger. Like you blatantly see Gecko Moria, but like he looks more normal. He still looks like a freak, but his neck isn't super long. Like he's
Oh
he's like smaller, I guess. I don't know. Like he's
yeah.
not as freakish. And Doflamingo's younger, and you see these people at Gold Roger's execution watching him get executed. They also show Gold Roger and Yasop's first meeting, like Gold Roger meeting Yasop for the first time. They show a bunch of crazy shit in Episode Zero that's all fucking canon. And just speaking of Yasop, by the way, this movie did a cool thing with Yasop and Usopp. Usopp using his hockey more, because I don't think we've seen Usopp use his hockey much
That's what I was thinking.
since Dressrosa was the last time I think I remember seeing him reuse it.
Yeah, I love that. It was a blatant part of the movie where his dad was like, "Yo, like you finally can hear me" or whatever.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned Roger's execution, and there was one of the coolest scenes of Film Red was when Uta, in her chaotic moments, recreated Roger's execution using Luffy.
Yeah.
When that part happened, I like felt something in my chest
Same.
seeing that scenery with Luffy in like a reenactment. That shit was so, it came out of nowhere and it happened so quick that you didn't have time to really, like, you didn't see what it was becoming until it was like quick, and then it was on screen. Like, oh shit, that is literally Roger's execution to a T. I just thought that was such a nice touch to this movie. This movie had a lot of fan service things like that. They didn't have to do that at all, but I like that she used it against Luffy, that he kept saying he wanted to be the Pirate King.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to show him this is what happened to the last Pirate King. And also, what's really dark about this movie is that there was a point where she was about to kill him before Shanks showed up. And it was really, again, a very dark thing, but he was asleep in that dream world while she was, awake in the real world. And she's over his body with a knife, and she's about to stab through and kill Luffy. Like, that is what her intentions were.
That's interesting. I thought she was going to stab herself.
Oh, I thought she was going to, maybe she was going to stab
Yeah, when I saw
herself.
that scene, I read it as she's going to stab herself to kill herself to then like speed up her plan, because like her
Right.
plan was to die from like staying awake too long from
Yeah.
awake shrooms and then trap everybody in this dimension. So when she was standing over Luffy with a knife and like crying, I was like, holy shit, I thought she was going to kill herself and stab
dark.
herself.
Also
And
dark is the fact that that if it was what you're saying, it's like suicide. It's fucking
yeah.
It's crazy. Like that whole everything about it, one way or another. Like I was looking at that scene before Shanks's hand came and grabbed her hand with the knife in it. I was like, damn, this is some dark content right here.
Yeah.
Like the
It
whole
really is.
thing. Yeah, I have to go back and watch to see where the knife was going, or if they even show it. Maybe they left it ambiguous.
Yeah, they might have.
Maybe that's why I interpret it one way, and maybe I should interpret it your way, because Luffy being killed by a regular knife is kind of like wild. But we do know that in One Piece, like characters basically can let certain things happen anyway. Like Shanks, in reality, couldn't really lose his arm to a Sea King. If we're being fucking honest, right? Like, let's be real. Characters can allow certain things to happen to their body that by their power scaling, it's like, well, there's no fucking way. Stronger people have tried. But like, you know.
But he bet it on the new world.
He bet it on a new world. Yeah.
What happened to your arm? He said, I gave it to the new world or whatever. I bet it on the new world.
Yeah. So, you know, it could be argued either way, but that's not the point. The point is that was a dark scene where she was intending to kill someone right there. And that was wild. But yeah, I really, really, really like the Roger execution recreation. The funny thing, Katakuri was in this movie, and I love that character. I love how ridiculous his observation hockey is and all that. But there was there was a part in this movie where Shanks was like doing his thing, and then Katakuri appeared behind him and said, "Yo, I'm talking to my sister using observation hockey, and like this is what the plan is," and all. And he started, and then Shanks just cut him off and was like, "Yeah, I also have observation hockey." I know how
to do that too, bro. Like,
I know how it works. Like I'm fully aware I'm actually aware what the plan is. Like I know. Like I know what we have to do. I've been listening. Like I've actually been listening. So I thought that was fucking so good.
It's so funny because Katakuri, to this point, he is the character with the absolute best observation hockey. Like we know for a fact his observation hockey is stronger than Big Mom's, even though he's Big Mom's son. But he is, you know, and it's just really funny for Shanks to be like, yeah, I mean, you're not really needed. Like I got him.
That's what I got from that. It was such a wave all kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Just like when somebody's trying to tell you something, you're like, no, I already know that. Like it's like you can anyway. But that scene was funny to me. I think we all collectively laughed. Like I put LOL in the group chat immediately when that shit happened. I was like, yo, he sunned him so quick.
Yeah, he did
like
not
it was so quick. Like he did not pay Katakuri, and Katakuri is one of the strongest characters in the entire series so far.
He really is.
Top 100.
He's definitely upper echelon. Like I don't know. I don't. It's so crazy. Like
I don't know where to place him either.
Certain fights,
but like Doflamingo versus Katakuri, I don't know who wins.
Yeah, I didn't. That was a big argument for a long time. I mean, probably still is, but there's so many people that were like Katakuri squashes Doflamingo, and there were some people saying like Doflamingo wins, and
they're both under Yonko. They both serve under Yonko. It's hard.
They're both under Yonko, and my other thing with it is like I think the fight is really close, and I think you're kind of capping if you think there's a clear winner.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I don't like the whole this character stomps, this character spites.
Yeah, it's just because he was shown like. Contrary to what I said earlier, the longer it takes for someone to do something, the more broken they are. Contrary to that, you also have to take context. Just because he came later doesn't mean he's necessarily stronger.
Right.
When you take fights of Luffy versus Dofi and Luffy versus Katakuri into consideration, Luffy had massive help versus Dofi, where he had no help versus Katakuri. So when he fought Katakuri, it was just kind of a one-on-one.
Yeah.
And even Katakuri kind of had help, but he had honor, and so like he negated the help that he had by injuring himself. But Luffy versus Dofi, Luffy had massive help from Law and from like Luffy went gear fourth like two or three times and still wasn't able to beat Dofi. The fucking whole crowd had to like protect Luffy for like 20 minutes, and Dofi was still alive doing shit. Luffy had to like recover to do gear fourth again. So like,
Doflamingo was holding his internal organs together the whole time they were fighting, which I thought was absolutely absurd from a durability standpoint. And the One Piece characters just have the highest durability I've seen in any anime or manga, period. I don't know any other characters with that type of stamina. But on top of that, Katakuri, it was more of a one-on-one, and Luffy, he went gear fourth, and his regular gear fourth just didn't really do much, and he had to like evolve it basically. Yeah. So but at the same time, the first time he ever went gear fourth was against Doflamingo. So it's like, okay, it was new to him then, and it was more refined against Katakuri. It could go either way, and using Luffy as a basis for which one is stronger is not the best metric anyway.
Yeah,
because Luffy gets stronger throughout the series naturally, just progression, right? Because he's the main character, he's naturally getting stronger. But that doesn't mean that the characters that he fights one after the other are progressing in the same way. Like that, because Katakuri came after, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that Katakuri is stronger than Doflamingo because he came after.
Yeah, I think it'd be a close fight. I think if I had to, like, gun the head had to choose, Katakuri probably ekes out the win.
Yeah.
But I think that Katakuri doesn't walk away unscathed. Like, he's not stomping him.
Right, like Akainu versus Aokiji thing. It's not a spite. Like, no one is walking away unharmed, right? Like, Akainu lost things, too, in that fight. So, yeah, it's tough. It's very, very tough to say exactly who would win, and I don't think it's a stomp or anything like that, but Yeah, I'm a big fan of Katakuri being in the movie, but it's just funny that he wasn't really like needed. He wasn't a pivotal character.
Yeah,
He was just kind of there.
you're
But
just
that's
kind of
cool.
there. Random. We haven't when we talked about it in the beginning. We haven't talked about it much, and unfortunately, there's not much to say because it's hard to talk about music. But we already said the music was fucking phenomenal.
Oh my
The
god, bro.
All of the songs were good. There was like some sad songs, some hype songs. The one song, and I think probably collectively everybody watching got hype at the same time. And I remember you typed in chat when she like starts going to the dark side and like there's like a rock song, like it's
Yes,
crazy. The
I
way it
love
fucking
that
hits
song.
is insane. And
It's so
you
good.
typed in chat. You're like, okay, I just need this whole OST.
Yeah.
Like she goes nuts.
Yes. So there was the first song, New Genesis, and I have the soundtrack here. The first song was called New Genesis, and I was really, really into that one. And I thought that would be like, oh, maybe this is just the one that I'll like, and then the rest of them would be kind of mid. But then every single song that followed after, and there were many, they were all good. But the one that Kenny's talking about, where she did start to like lose her shit, and it got really dark, she started to trap the Straw Hats on like musical notes and stuff. That shit was so fire to me that's when I did type in the chat, like, yo, I need the whole thing now. Like,
Yep.
fuck this one, like, fuck the one song. I need the whole thing. I'm actually going to listen to this at the gym tomorrow when I go. I'm super excited because the music, it has that EDM feel to it. So, yeah, it has an EDM feel to it. So, it's actually, for me, I can work out to that music. Like, that is the type of music that I can work out to.
I'm still making it bigger. I had another one, but it got deleted. But I'm currently in the process of making like an anime music playlist that's mostly like anime openings and endings of songs that I really like.
Yeah.
That works really good for being in the gym. Like you're on the treadmill and you're like, listen. So I'm definitely adding some of this Film Red shit to that and, amongst other songs. But these songs fucking went hard. I really fucking like them. And it's cool because every time, because you're watching a movie, but a lot of times when the songs happened in the context of the movie, they also function as music videos. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, they do.
The visuals for them functioned as like music videos. Like,
and they are on YouTube that way too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm so glad. I just want to say this too. Like we've already mentioned it many times now, but we did not get spoiled about the premise of this movie, who the villain was. I didn't know how much of Shanks was going to even be in it. I didn't know that Big Mom was going to have a cameo. I didn't know anything about it. So the fact that when I looked on YouTube today, I just typed in Film Red. First I typed in Film Red on YouTube to see what came up. And what came up was every music video. Like all the songs came up. And then I had to type in Film Red review or Film Red discussion to actually get people talking about the movie. But when you just type in Film Red on YouTube, the very first things that came up were just all the songs. And I was like, oh damn. And they're like, they've been on YouTube for a while, but they never came across my timeline. And thankfully, like I didn't see anything that would spoil the movie or the premise. And I'm glad I also apparently didn't see those episodes that came before the movie that kind of gave away some things too, about like Luffy being delusional of who won in their little competitions of chicken and all the other games they played. They played 183 games prior to the movie. And apparently Uta...
Hey man, she cheated, all right?
Yeah, Uta always uses some kind of method to win. But Luffy said, no, I won 100. I beat her 183 times. It'll be fine. And then she's like, no, I beat him 183 times. And they play again. And he's like... Later in the movie, it's so funny. It's just kind of an aside. But he says, I beat her 184 times now. And I was like, but this is after we blatantly saw him lose. So I was like, hey, yo, Luffy is wild. Like, he said that shit. It was such a little like... It was just a sideline.
So fast.
Yeah, he said it so calm. Like, yeah, I beat
nobody brought any attention to it. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one even said anything when he's just like, yo, this guy's fucking delusional. I love it. Like, I love that for him. So that was funny. And that's the type of thing for me when you're watching something One Piece related. The characters, I just love how they are. Like Oda does it. Oda does it best.
One Piece is it has so many things going for it, and I can suck its dick forever. Like it's it's so funny. Like it's crazy how funny One Piece is. Like when I watch Naruto, I love Naruto. It's got great action. It's got some really good emotional moments. But for the most part, Naruto doesn't usually make me laugh out loud.
You're right.
Naruto has a lot of jokes in it, but it doesn't like make me laugh the way One Piece does.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's part of the reason why when I did start reading One Piece years and years and years ago now, I found it genuinely funny when I was reading it. There was the one part where Luffy, he got really fat from overeating. It's very early on.
Yeah.
And he gets really fat, and he walks out of like the bar, and there's like fights and shit going on, and he's just big. He's big, and he walks out with kind of like I ate too much meat, and he's all like tired looking. When he realizes what's going on around him, though, his face gets kind of mean. Like he starts to make a scowling, but he's still huge. So he starts fighting in his rubbery fatness, and all his attacks are changed to like him being fat. Like Oda made it where they now make sense for him being this really big Luffy. And that shit made me laugh when I was reading the manga. I was like, why is he so fat? Or then when Enel first does his judgment on him and Luffy just stands there, he's like, oh. He's like he's just looking. He turns to the left, like he's looking at Enel. A big ass thunderbolt comes down that normally would kill anyone else on the island. And then it hits Luffy. And when you see Luffy, he's like, oh, what? Like what? And nothing happens to him. The way Luffy is drawn in that moment, in that specific panel, if you could pull it up, the way Luffy is drawn when the judgment happens and he's just standing there unharmed is one of the funniest things to me because of how serious Enel was and trying to kill this man. And he's just like,
there's also a fucking hilarious, like it's one of the funniest written scenes I've seen in anything. There's a part where Buggy, early on, he uses the buggy ball and he destroys like a village, right?
Yeah.
And Luffy was blatantly there. Chapters and chapters, hundreds and hundreds of chapters later, when they meet and Impel Down, and Luffy and Buggy team up. Buggy's talking about using his special buggy ball, and he was like, "You remember my buggy ball? I used it when I destroyed that town." And Luffy just looks at him and goes, "No, like I don't remember it." And then the next panel is it's like the next panel is just Buggy's face. And it's pure depression.
Yes.
Like his face is like,
and it's super detailed.
Like it is so fucking depressed. He's like, wait, he doesn't remember the buggy ball? Like,
yeah. That's the kind of character Luffy is too. He will make you feel so bad about something that you care about. Luffy don't give a fuck about none of that shit you talking. That man is so in his own world. Before we end this episode though, I do want to talk about one last thing at least. So the clothing, because Anthony brought this up while we were watching it. Anthony's friend of the podcast. So we were watching it together, and he brought up, I love how One Piece has unique clothing designs and character designs for movies and different arcs and stuff. And that is definitely a One Piece thing that I love, and I brought up that Bleach also does it a lot. But I really, really liked the choices made towards the end where Uta changed every pirate's outfits to be what she considered a villain. She said, you guys are all the villains, so you need to look the part. So she changed reality to make them all wear black. And she just made them look like badass rockers, which was in theme with her being musical and then them being villains, the color black and all that stuff. But Luffy specifically, there's a part where there is nothing but chaos happening because the Demon King is out and there's chaos going on everywhere around him. And he's just standing there with this wind blowing and he has this fucking black coat on. And it's kind of like the Gold Roger coat, but it's black and it's like a winter coat. It has fur and stuff on it. That shot of him standing there with the wind blowing and the cape flying, the coat, cape, whatever you want to call it, flying off his shoulders like that, is so etched in my mind as a cool ass scene and moment. Yep. I love when they give characters clothes, especially clothes that just look really cool. So I just wanted to call that out because Oda did a fantastic job designing. Like Brooks, every time Brooke showed up, I typed in chat, I was like, I love this character. Okay.
Yeah.
Because he does Bada Jutsu stuff where the art of unsheathing, for people who don't know what that means. I got that from Kenshin. But like Bada Jutsu, the art where you like close your sword really slow and it makes that sound and then you unsheath it really quick and then it just like slices something in half. He did that multiple times throughout the movie, and every time he did it, it was some of the coolest shit animated and everything. So yeah, the costumes.
Brooke is fucking awesome. The costumes are great. It reminds me of that scene you're talking about with Luffy reminds me of in Strong World when they all had the suits on and Luffy had like a coat hanging on his shoulders in that movie, but the whole Straw Hats had like these suits on and these coats. And they fucking come into Shiki's like area, and they just look so fucking badass. Like it's awesome.
The Straw Hat Strut.
The Straw Hat Strut. The outfits are great. And so you haven't seen. I want to quick as a rant because it's related to watching Film Red, although it's not Film Red itself. This is really funny when we turn the movie on, right? And we all mute. We're all excited to watch it, and the movie starts, and I'm sitting here at my computer, and I'm looking at it, and I go, I don't think this is Film Red. But I don't say anything. I'm just watching it, and I see the gold shoes, and I go, I feel like I saw this already. And I see like these gold shoes walking up these stairs. I was like, I remember this. And then I blatantly see Guild Tesoro, who's the main villain of Film Gold.
Yeah.
And I type, I just unmute my mic and go, guys, we're watching Film Gold. Like, this is not Film Red.
Yeah.
And Fraser was like, oh shit. He was like, I was already all into it. Like, I was ready to go.
I was super ready. I was like, okay, we're starting off with this really cool looking character.
So you haven't seen Film Gold though?
Nope.
So you gotta, at some point, we gotta sync Film Gold.
If you want to watch it with me, I'm 100% down to watch Film Gold on a Sunday.
We gotta sync Film Gold, and in general, I think it'd be cool. Not every movie will get its own podcast, but I think it'd be cool to watch a bunch of the One Piece movies and do a podcast on just like the One Piece movies. Because even though the first 12 of them are like wholly not canon, they are still, some of them really, obviously some are better than others, but some of them are really fucking interesting and cool. Like one of them came out before Gear Second was a thing, and it hints to Gear Second in a really cool way. This big giant like thing hits Luffy and he catches it. And when he catches it, his body like shrinks down and like it makes his legs pump and like they pump back into him. So like it happens by accident. Like Luffy himself doesn't do it. And like it activates Gear Second without Luffy realizing he went into Gear Second, because like this heavy, it's just like a really cool thing. And there's little cool things that happen in a bunch of the movies.
So they have a history of introducing another gear in a movie.
Yeah, they do in a movie.
But, I'm assuming in Film Gold, I don't know when that takes place. Like, do you know in between what events or before what events or after what events in the actual manga Film Gold
is after Dressrosa.
So that's what I you know what I was thinking. So this is the reason why I'm even saying this. I was wondering if Gear 4 had a movie, and you're basically confirming that it does, because
it's after Dressrosa,
so, which means that Gear 4 is a thing already. That's exactly that's really all I wanted to know, because I feel like every time something pivotal like that happens, it makes sense to, now he only has 4 gears technically, second, third, fourth, fifth, but like it makes sense that there will be a movie kind of dedicated to all of them, like where after he gets it, a movie comes out shortly after to kind of show it off even more. I think it's really a hype thing anyway, so I'm not surprised that like Gear 4 after Dressrosa, there's a movie where he probably is going to use Gear 4 in it. And then this movie, I won't say that Film Red was the definitive Gear 5 movie. I don't think it is. I think we will get one now.
I do think we will get one, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll get one down the road, because it probably won't be anytime soon, but we'll get one down the road that is definitively like, you get to see him go Gear 5 as his first thing that he does, and it is a big part of the movie, the way it operates, because in Film Red, despite the fact that yes, you do see Gear 5 in it, it's not the real thing. I don't know how to.
I agree. It just shows you Gear 5 is in the movie, and that you see Luffy go into the form. However, he doesn't do, and like it's basically just still him doing like a big Gear 3 punch.
Right.
Like he just does like a big Gear 3 punch, but he's in Gear 5. Whereas if you've seen the anime, Gear 5 is on some other shit.
Yeah, it's reality warping, and so I want to see that. Like it literally warps reality. I don't think there's any concessions about that. I know people are being slow and saying, "Oh, it's just an art style and stuff like that." Like that is not. Like that is not like it is actually warping reality, bro. So
yeah, he's on another level.
I mean, that's also just what same thing with Doflamingo. Like, what do you think it was when Doflamingo turned buildings and all this shit into strings? Like, do you think that is that not reality warping to you? Because buildings are not made of string, and they don't operate the way Doflamingo made them operate. That is what awakenings do. They change the surroundings and stuff. So to me, I was like, well, yeah, like Doflamingo also had reality warping abilities.
What's crazy is that, and this is something I love about One Piece, is that things happen, and when they happen, you don't realize what it is. Like it is what it is. But like we saw Awakening back when they told us that Aokiji and Akainu fought, and then when they said like
Akainu
fought. You see, and then anyway, you go to Punk Hazard, you find out this is the island that these two admirals fought on. Half of it is ice, half of it is magma, lava, volcanoes. At the time, you're just like, holy shit, these guys are broken, which is still true. But after Dressrosa, you get the context of like, oh, these motherfuckers were awakened.
Yeah.
Like they fucking warped reality of this island.
And then it makes you think about all the other ones that we might see. One Piece is still, despite the fact that we're in the end game, it still has a lot more content to show us. And so I'm curious to see who else is going to get an awakening, because there are some Straw Hats that could. There's half his crew has devil fruits.
Yeah, we'd see some crazy shit like Brook, from a lot of them.
Who knows what the fuck? I mean, I think post time skip Brook is ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Like the shit that he's been doing post time skip, possession, and all that stuff, like that is not okay. So
I love that Brook got a lot of shine in the Big Mom arc. And I'm
Yeah.
really happy. Something that I
Yes.
think was
His
good
ability lined
about
up very well with that.
yeah, that's something that was cool about the Big Mom arc is that not all the Straw Hats were there, and so it gave the Straw Hats that were there room to like do more shit.
Yeah.
And it was really cool that Brooke got a lot of shine in that arc.
Quick question. So in Film Red, does Luffy consciously ever meet Shanks in that movie?
No.
Shanks
No,
is
that
in the real world and Luffy was in that dream
Luffy's in the
world.
dream world, and then when Luffy wakes up, Shanks is already sailing away
Yeah, they
on
show us both. Okay,
on
I
his
just want to make
ship.
sure I wasn't crazy. Like they never formally meet in which, despite the fact the movie itself, in terms of Luffy, isn't canon, it still makes sense that he did not meet Shanks in that movie because, like, how
Yeah,
it's
because
a
the
it would,
whole
it
it's a
would
very
conflict.
pivotal moment when Luffy and Shanks actually meet face to face. It's going to be a
Right.
pivotal moment of
So
One
they found
Piece.
a way with Film Red to make it where like Shanks could be in a movie, but he also won't formally meet Luffy in the world that that was it's a cool writing device, the whole Sing fruit and how, it works. That's actually pretty dope.
Yeah. Yeah, the fucking oh my that dimension. It's so funny because one of the characters, because they're speaking Japanese, and us being weebs and watching so much anime, one of the characters blatantly say the word genjutsu in the movie.
Yes, I heard that in the beginning. I was like, oh shit, that is Genjutsu. And then I started bringing up the whole idea of like, yo, this is some straight up Naruto shit. Like she's doing the frog song and all types of nonsense. And there's also Tayuya or Kaluya, I forget her name. She was one of the Sound Five, but she has a flute in Naruto. And she was the first actual sound
Oh yeah,
Genjutsu
yeah,
user.
yeah.
Yes, the first, what is it called? Auditory? But she's the one that affects your actual senses that way. Before Genjutsu used to be something else. Typically through the eyes is the way we would get it. But yeah, that character had it through sound, which even in part one of Naruto was a broken ass thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you can't cover up your ears, so you're just dead. Like, if I catch you with this, you're dead.
It's
Very
just
very
fucked.
powerful ability. So yeah, that sound genjutsu is not okay apparently in anything. Like they waited till Film Red
No,
to introduce that to the characters, and all of them got caught by it. Like all of them
they
got
did.
fucking caught by her singing nonsense. So
70% of the world's
yes,
population.
yes,
That was the number.
yes.
70% of
That
the entire world.
like, why is that character so broken? Why is Uta so broken? She was so ridiculous. That fruit needs to go. And at the end of the movie, I was like, oh, they're gonna kill her. Like she's dead. I thought that they would actually write her off because of how powerful she was. But
Yeah, she's dude, also, so there's a part because like she's putting the whole world in a genjutsu, right?
mm,
And the world government, this is like after it's kind of being revealed that like she's kind of a bad guy in the context of this movie or in the context of her plans, even though she's a good girl at heart. Anyway, there she's doing some shit, and the world government's like, we have to kill her. And then 5 minutes later, Fraser types in chat, "Oh, I'm with the government."
yeah.
Like she starts doing some shit, and Fraser's like, "Oh no, I'm with the
Yeah.
government. Like she's got to go."
Yeah, she started just changing. I noticed that she had reality warping abilities, and I called her Thanos multiple times. I started talking about how she has all the stones, which made sense because in her world she could do whatever she wanted. But this is when they were still trying to pin down what her powers were.
Mm-hmm.
And as they started to unfold on screen, I was like, no, this is not okay. Like, I don't know what her ability is actually going to be, but whatever it is just not okay. She needs to go. I'm with the world government for sure. And then when they said the 70% thing, I was like, well, that's just ridiculous. That's more than Thanos, actually. Thanos only won at 50. She was getting close to 70. She was at 70.
Yeah, she was trying to get it all.
She was trying to get it all.
She really was trying to get the infinite Tsukiyomi going. Like
So now I want to see, like, I got to go back and see what the world government called her in that first conversation. Probably going to do that right after this podcast. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about with this movie. I mean, it was amazing. The animation was so sick. And in general, anime movies tend to have really, really high animation. But yeah, they did their big one with this movie. They did not spare any expense on the way it looked. Everything looked so clean. There was none of that cheap animation like that Pain versus Naruto when he goes six tails. There was none of that. Like there was none of that. So I'm happy that it looked good.
The movie looked great. Yeah, I loved it. It was a great watch. The music was a great touch. The characters were really fun. The twist on Uta was really interesting because I did not see that coming.
Me either.
The outfits were great. Like we said, everything in the movie was awesome, and how some of its lore ties into the greater One Piece is really interesting. Like Fraser said, probably after recording this, I want to go back. I feel like it definitely started with an F, but after they find out she was Shanks' daughter, they make a reference basically saying like, because one of them says we have to kill her, and the other one says like, even we're going to do that even though she's a this. And they like
Yeah.
say a thing that I assume is a race or whatever. And to me, it happens after they find out she's Shanks' daughter. So I understand it as like either A, that is saying that Shanks is also this race or this whatever, or B, maybe they knew that she was still different from Shanks in some way because she has red and white hair. And then she also has wings that, as far as I know, aren't fake. So she blatantly does have wings. And we've seen other characters with wings, like actual fucking wings.
Yeah, like
so
King. And
yeah, she's race. Interesting.
Right now, the Seraphim and the whole lore of King and his race and how he's like one of the last ones or whatever, that's a pretty big deal narratively right now in One Piece. Mm-hmm. So now that you brought up the wing thing, I'm wondering like, excuse me, I'm wondering if there is something bigger at play here about what race she is. She doesn't have the flame or anything in the back, but like I am still wondering about, yeah, she does have wings and that is not a normal thing. And in One Piece, character design isn't just because Oda likes to make characters look ridiculous or whatever. It's often related to something.
Yeah, like even when you look at something like Beppo, right? Beppo for a long time was this bear that was a full-on character, and as far as we knew, didn't have a devil fruit. And it was just like, why the fuck is there just a full-on bear person?
Could not understand why Trafalgar Law had a bear on his crew.
And it was like, what the fuck is this? And then years later, you get a whole arc where it's like, oh no, this is an entire race of people, and like, you find out why. And it doesn't feel like it's the genius of Oda's pen is that he almost never introduces something, and at least to me, does it feel like, oh, he just figured this out last year. Like he introduces something 10 years ago, and when it gets introduced 10 years later, like the full context of it, it never feels like an ass pull. It feels like, holy shit, he was building up to this because he puts breadcrumbs throughout that are like really, because we see like a dog. And this dog is also a baseball launcher, right? Randomly in Arabasta, there's a dog that's a baseball launcher, and you go, I guess that dog ate like the baseball launcher fruit, and then you find out no, the baseball launcher ate the dog fruit, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? And they go, some guy named Dr. Vegapunk did it, right? Like, that makes no sense, but okay. And then you get Chopper, Chopper was before. Chopper was a normal reindeer that ate the human fruit. And so you're like, okay, I get it. Reindeer person. Okay.
Right.
Then you get Beppo. And I think at some point we see Beppo swimming. So we see a bear person that can talk, but he's swimming. So Oda is telling you.
So unhinged, but yes.
Oda's telling you he doesn't have a devil fruit. And so you go, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, no, that's actually a really cool point.
They line it up like it's not an ass pull. So when he made Beppo, he already knew Zoe and the Minx existed. He was building up to that. He was making you interested in a thing, dropping breadcrumbs, just like with fucking Big Mom being Lola from Thriller Bark. Lola gives you a fucking a life card, a Virver card. I never can say it right. Yeah. The same thing Ace gives you. And she explains what it is, which now explains this piece of fucking paper Ace gave us hundreds of chapters ago. She gives it to you, and you're like, what the fuck? And then she says, my mom is a big name pirate in the New World. Yep. And that's all she says. And then from there, people kind of guess, like, her mom has to be Big Mom, right? And then it doesn't get revealed, though, until fucking 10 years later.
Literally 10 years later, because I'll never forget that. It's like this weird-ass looking character talking about her mom, and I was like, well, I can guess who her mom, and then they confirm it, like you said, literally 10 years later. So yeah, this movie was amazing. One Piece in general is just amazing, and I love talking about it every time. Was there something else I wanted to say? I don't think so. I think that's pretty much everything though. Let us know what you guys think though on this episode and on Film Red. If you've seen it, I hope that you've seen it if you've gotten to this point. And if not, you're a devout fan, and I get that as well, because some people are like, I don't even really watch or listen or read One Piece, but I just listen to every episode of the podcast. No matter, they just like.
I mean, that's what's up. I love it. I respect it.
Yes.
Also, I think we're gonna do. Just so people know, we did a Wano episode, but Wano wasn't done when it was the manga. But anyway, I think we're going to be doing a Wano anime episode, and Ant said he really wants to be on. He has things he wants to say about the anime. He's really excited to talk about. And then there's just more One Piece shit I want to talk about. The movies and just anime movies in general. Like, I'd be down to talk about like 3 of the Naruto movies in one episode or whatever.
That'd be cool.
Or like the Bleach movies. Watch them.
I like the Naruto movies too. I've seen a good amount of them. I actually haven't seen The Last. I think it's called The Last.
I haven't seen The Last either, actually.
So we can watch that together for sure. And I don't know what other ones I haven't seen, but yeah, I'm down to watch more of these anime movies. I'm for it. All right.
Oh yeah.
So I have the Patreon up. Thank you guys. There's like 62 62 or 64. There's 65. I'm sorry, I'm completely wrong. There are 65 of you right now. Numbers are ever growing on Patreon. So thank you so much for the support. We will be releasing another, Patreon exclusive episode this month. But without further ado, let me give a shout out to, we have Connie, Ronathan, Leon, Stardust Dragon, Assault Mode gave me PTSD, Xavier, Hylian, Dimitri Barnes, Volvi Knows a Spot in the Woods by the Cum Trees, Dominique that is just unhinged. Dominique Roberts, Giovanni Avalos, Alex Flamer, Andre Reynolds, Dan Vrabel, Ezica, or Azuka. I've been saying Ezica, but it really, I don't know how to probably say it. I'm just saying.
I think both are true.
Okay. First home. Let me give me a second. I got to page 2. Is that many? By the way, at some point, like, it's funny to think that we will eventually grow to a point where I cannot do this anymore. Like, that is.
Yeah, at some point we won't be able to read them all. I don't know when that'll be. We have to at least. I don't know if this is going to be true or not, right? But here's the tentative thing. Frasier in general reads the first 50. Whether or not it's actually 50 changes, because we kind of just cut it off at Cairo because he was the original 51.
Correct.
But people go active and inactive, whatever. But we have to at least get to 100 patrons, because if we get to 100 patrons, that forces me to have to read 50 names as well. Because Frasier reads 50, so we have to get to at least 100 so that I can read 50. And then after that, maybe what we'll do is we'll find another way to do it, or maybe we'll randomize. Let's say it's 130 names. We'll randomize 100 of them and just read those. I don't fucking know. I'm just making shit up right now, but we have to at least get to 100. So if you want to hear me lose my voice and read 50 names, help us get to 100 patrons.
Yeah, that and the fact that I saw a Patreon. I was just perusing because I like to look and see what other people are doing, and I stumbled upon one that has 17,000 Patreon people, and I was like, well, fuck, like that is just so much that you'd have to employ AI to read off the members. But I would also think that it's only a certain group that would get read off in the end of an episode anyway, because I actually follow a YouTube channel, and at the end of the episode, what he does, or at the end of his YouTube videos, what he does is he puts a scrolling list of every Patreon person, and then it's by tier too. So there's all types of ways to do it. But yeah, I in the future there will be a time where it could be 1,000 people, and it's we'll have to figure out something else to do, or maybe make it more exclusive. But for now, we appreciate everybody. All 60.
But maybe I just had an idea. Listen, look, guys, I'm trying to get paid. I'm trying to get money, but also give you guys fun things to do to torture us with. Maybe, right? First, you help us get to 200, 300 patrons, right? And at that point in time, we can't read every name. But maybe at the $20 tier, once a month, somebody could redeem it and be like, you have to read every name.
That's awful.
And then we just it's all right, well, Quest told us we have to read every name for this episode. So
that is literally awful. And our trolly ass patrons, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody would want to do that. So I might have to just veto that idea off the bat, because that just sounds toxic as hell. But let me get back to these names. So we got Estat Akuma, Mitchell Naus, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Safirdas, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, KJ, Doc and Ziggy, Roz Weiss. Oh, am I on? Hold on. Yep. Roz Weiss, Nick Stango, Hanto, our 2-time national champion. Kachan is a poorly written character. Sarah Maria, Sunny Top Cut Podcast, Alex Ahern, Philip Campa, Chris Lynn, Wookie 159, MSW 2389, Kyle Batelho. I'm not a hot pot, but I am chubby. Sugal, Nick, Mr. Saltai, Corey Fowler, Vicky Venomon, Elijah Barfault, and
a true hero, Tyler Tadeo, Volvi, the Mega Monarch, Big Stinky, Duty Booty, Adam Corey, and Raged Peacock. Shout out to Raged Peacock once again. He's been hanging out on my streams at Critical Hit Plus, Twitch.tv. I've been playing FF16. I've also been playing Kingdom Hearts 2 randomizer runs. Really fucking fun. And Rage Peacock's been popping in, so shout out to you. Leo Bacani, Janitor 215, feeling some Barbie titties. Thomas Rude, come tree these nuts.
What is going on? Oh my god.
Wayne Trader, Eric Chai, Finesse Kid, Tim O'Maya, Owen Tedford, Jeff Strain, Veda, I'm not a Yu-Gi-Oh player, Goffin, AB, Goat Explosion, and Brian Moore.
Yeah, shout out to Brian Moore. I know him in person. I think that he's like a nurse now in real life, but we met
Oh yeah.
over 10 years ago, I want to say. And he's a local Yu-Gi-Oh player, I think from like the Maryland area. And I haven't seen him in person in a while. I don't even know if you still play Yu-Gi-Oh, Brian, but shout out to you. I know you got married and everything. So congrats on that. And I appreciate that you're supporting the podcast and everything. So just want to give a special shout out there. Yeah, and shout out to everyone else who's just honestly been a Patreon member for a while now. Like I can actually
Mm-hmm.
see when a lot of you guys started. And it's crazy to me that when I go to the second page when we first started reading out names, like a lot of them have been here since 2021, and it is now going on. We're very close to 2024. There's only 4 months left in a year. It's kind of depressing to say that.
It is kind of
Um,
depressing. It feels like the year just started,
I
man.
know 4 months left though. Like this is the 8th month. There are only 4 left after. So, but yeah, thank you guys. I just wanted to really say that in case I don't say it enough. So yeah, thank
Thank
you
you, thank you,
everybody.
thank you.
All right, well, we're getting out of here. As I always say, do the things that make you happy, including enjoying One Piece, which is still, in my opinion, one of the best written stories ever. I don't care about its length. It is so fucking good. And if you still aren't into
Mm-hmm.
it, I'm hoping that we could somehow convince you after all the episodes that we've done on it and hearing our enthusiasm that you will too find the beauty in One
We
Piece.
did get at least, maybe more, but I know we got at least one person to finally watch
Yes,
One Piece. Doc,
blatantly.
right?
Yeah, there's
Wasn't it
there's been
him?
I think it's him, and there have been more than one person. I don't know if they sent it to me specifically, but I've gotten messages or seen messages of people who said I didn't even watch anime. Okay, there's
Oh
like a
wow.
player from
Yeah,
AU.
yeah.
He moved now, but he messaged me or put it somewhere and was like, I literally have never watched anime in my life, and because of your podcast, because he's a truck driver. He's like, I listen to your podcast when I'm doing my truck drive. So when you do an anime episode, he was like, man, I know that I could just skip this one, but then I don't have anything to listen to. So it was like, well, fuck it. I'll just listen to it anyway. He said he started watching Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer because of us.
That's awesome.
So,
That
and
is
Death Note.
awesome.
I think
Yeah.
he also was into Death Note because of us. So that's crazy that people who never watched anime in their life, they're like, that's not my thing. Because of the podcast, they've gotten into it. And so I love that for you guys. So yeah, like I said, do the things that make you happy. And we will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out.